Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. It is my hope and prayer that this video is actually going to find you guys in good health. Personally, I'm fine. Kisumu is also fantastic. Maybe you could let me know where you're watching the video from, the county or the country, in case you are outside the republic. There is something which I've been thinking about, and I'm coming to the conclusion that there is serious unfinished business between William Ruto and Uhuru Kenyatta. And that unfinished business is actually very dangerous for the country. And based on what I'm gathering online, there's two schools of thought about this unfinished business. There are those who believe that the unfinished business is basically taking Raila Odinga to Bondo. That these two gentlemen are actually working very closely to send Raila Odinga to Bondo. So there's those who believe that the two gentlemen have some unfinished business of sending Raila Odinga to Bondo. And until that time Raila Odinga will go to Bondo, that's when they'll not be playing these games. And then there is the second group of people, or second school of thought, where I now belong, which believes very strongly that these two gentlemen actually fell out. And that fallout is very dangerous for this country. So in this video, I want to try and explain to you guys why personally I strongly believe that William Ruto, who is the president of the Republic of Kenya, has serious unfinished business with Uhuru Kenyatta. And William Ruto is going to destroy Uhuru Kenyatta completely. And Uhuru Kenyatta is also going to try to recover and revenge. Before you do all those, in case you are watching this channel for the first time, please take a second or two, click the subscribe button so that next time we produce a video like this, YouTube will automatically notify you. And to the subscribers, I want to continue thanking you guys for your continued support, because without that support, this channel cannot be where it is. So I want to ask you again, please just press that subscribe button, and for those who can, just give it thumbs up. Now let us get back to the main issue. I want to begin by asking you the school of thought you belong to. Do you belong to the school of thought which believes that Uhuru and Ruto are actually working together to send Raila Odinga to Bondo? Or do you believe in the school of thought that Uhuru and Ruto fell out, and that William Ruto is actually outwitting Uhuru Kenyatta with his latest moves? Let me know where you belong. Just say, I belong in the group which believes Uhuru and Ruto are playing Raila, or maybe these two gentlemen fell out, and justify. For me, let me just begin by telling you why personally I believe these two gentlemen fell out. There is no way Uhuru Kenyatta would have allowed easily the mountain to drift from him. As we speak, Uhuru Kenyatta does not have any control of the mountain. And that's something which is really worrying to anybody who cares about politics. Uhuru Kenyatta would have wanted a situation where, as much as he's not the president, as much as he wanted William Ruto, for those who believe like that, as long as he wanted William Ruto to win the presidency, there was no way he would have allowed Ruto to take full control of the mountain, to an extent that Rigathi is now the deputy president. And we all know the relationship between Rigathi and Uhuru. Let us look at the other case of Uhuru Kenyatta's security. You know, the other day, William Ruto tried to withdraw the security of Uhuru Kenyatta, and they wanted to remove one of the guys who have actually stayed with Uhuru Kenyatta for a long time. Uhuru Kenyatta told him, no, just stay with your security. Of course, constitutionally, the security is supposed to be scaled down, but the way they were doing it was kind of harassing. So the gentleman said he's not leaving Uhuru, he would rather resign. Then William Ruto also came up with this issue of tax, where they were accusing Uhuru Kenyatta and the family of evading tax. If these guys are working together, this issue of tax is actually a motive. I don't think they would have raised it. Then the issue of Jubilee. You know, William Ruto yesterday, was it the day before yesterday, met with the 30 members of parliament from Jubilee Party. And these 30 members of Jubilee Party, MPs, agreed to work with Ruto. They don't recognize Uhuru. So if these guys are working together, Probably Uhuru would have told the members of parliament, mkienda huko, just vote for him. But if you ask me, he doesn't have control over these MPs. The other thing, which is also justification, is what I think Uhuru Kenyatta might not want to allow, the takeover of Jubilee Party. William Ruto successfully managed to take control of Jubilee Party. The mere fact that a group of Jubilee MPs and leaders came out and under neck and declared the other group ousted is serious. Uhuru Kenyatta would have not wanted a situation where he loses the control of Jubilee Party. And again, if you look at it, the issue of Uhuru Kenyatta being blocked from traveling outside the country. The other day, was it last week, Uhuru Kenyatta was supposed to travel out of the country on an international trip, which was actually an official trip. And he was told, you can't travel. You know, this is a former president. He wanted to travel on official duties. And, you know, he's entitled to security because that area is a bit insecure. He is entitled to securities. These guys told him, you can only go with one. You are not going with a doctor. Uhuru Kenyatta, because of his conditions, he needs a doctor around him. So he said he's not traveling. So even if these guys were playing Raila Odinga, I don't think they would have gone to a situation where now they frustrate Uhuru Kenyatta's international trip. And that frustration led to actually a collapse of that peace talk, where some heads of states were very clear that without Uhuru, they couldn't proceed. But that is that. Again, I could be wrong, but personally, let us now look at the real issues, which I think is causing this unfinished business. The first issue is the issue of politics of betrayal. Because I want us to look at the issues, then later on I look at the dangers. Now, when you talk of politics of betrayal, who betrayed who between Ruto and Uhuru? If you ask anybody, they will give you different answers depending on who they support. Those who support Uhuru will tell you it's Ruto who betrayed Uhuru. Those who support Ruto will tell you it is Uhuru who betrayed Ruto. But there is the feeling in William Ruto's camp, and this is why he still has this unfinished business, that Uhuru Kenyatta actually kicked him out of Jubilee Party. You know, Ruto didn't have this idea of forming a new political party. His original intention was to operate under Jubilee. That's why immediately after 2013 election, William Ruto convinced, because during that election he had Jubilee, he had URP and TNA. Jubilee was a coalition. He pushed to have that party. At the end of the day, Ruto was kicked out of Jubilee, and you could even tell the bitterness in his heart whenever he was speaking. He was kicked out of Jubilee. Uhuru ended up taking Jubilee to support Raila. That is something which is causing bitterness amongst these guys. And Uhuru, despite supporting Raila, still failed with Raila Odinga to secure the presidency. So William Ruto, in my view, will still make attempts to frustrate Uhuru Kenyatta. Now that is the president. You know, Uhuru Kenyatta did all this because Uhuru was the president. William Ruto is now taking control of Jubilee because he's now the president. If Uhuru used, for example, the judiciary, the deep state to frustrate him, like to get his allies out of office, then he's also going to use the same. Just watch this space. So for me, that's the first issue. Then the second issue, which is causing serious problem between these guys, is the handshake. You know, after the 2017 election, Uhuru and Raila entered into the handshake, which was in March. And that handshake, in my view, is what changed the political equation in this country completely. The implication of the handshake was that Uhuru Kenyatta kicked out William Ruto out of government. And why do you think he kicked Ruto out of government? And why do you think in the first place Uhuru entered into the handshake with Raila? The truth of the matter is that there were strong feelings amongst key Uhuru Kenyatta's allies that William Ruto was planning to impeach him. So to avoid that impeachment, they had to go for the handshake with Raila Odinga. And with Raila Odinga, now they were safe. So Ruto is yet to forgive Uhuru for that handshake, because for 5 years he was out of government. Again, there were these stories which he was not happy about, that he was planning to impeach Uhuru. So that's the second issue. The third issue is the family factor. You know, if you look at Uhuru, it's a dynasty because of the father. Ruto is the alleged what? Hustler. Ruto decided to send Oscar Sudi to attack Uhuru Kenyatta's mother. So that pissed off Uhuru Kenyatta. Then there is the tax debate which is coming up. So which means Uhuru Kenyatta, wherever he is, he's also thinking how he can deal with this guy. Then at some point during the campaign period, for those who remember, Ruto actually told Uhuru to spare his son, suggesting that Uhuru was actually planning to eliminate the son. So they involved the families into this. And Ruto believes very strongly that it's not Uhuru Kenyatta who supported Raila. It is actually the Kenyattas. And he's going to deal with them, their businesses. That's why he's talking of the issues of tax. He's talking of several other issues. Remember, currently in parliament, the majority leader is Kimani Ichung'wah. If you want to understand the depth of this, just follow Kimani Ichung'wah's speeches in parliament and also at parliament in regard to the Kenyatta family businesses. The other issue which is causing unfinished business between these guys is actually business interest. You know, William Ruto came from a poor background. He came up and he started competing for businesses because he reached that level. When they got into power in 2013, William Ruto ventured into businesses, and he entered into businesses including those of the Kenyatta family. So they were not very happy with him. William Ruto also believes that the Kenyatta family frustrated him. And someone was telling me that William Ruto is saying that he wants to reach the level of the Kenyattas within this short time. And that is going to reach there either by catching up with them or by dealing with them politically and economically. So that if he can't reach the level they are, he's going to destroy their businesses. Already, there's this story that he has flooded the market with the Ugandan milk and also eggs, because those are the main sources of income for the Kenyattas. And not the issue of tax coming in. The other day, I saw the issue of Kenya Airways coming up. So they've mixed now the business interest. So Uhuru will attempt to protect their family interest and businesses. Ruto will attempt to frustrate. And because of that, we are going to face several dangers. So let me take you to the dangers which I foresee as a result of these two gentlemen. Because remember, Uhuru is a former president, Ruto is a former president. Ruto is the current president. So the danger number one we have is that there is likely to be revenge mission. Uhuru will attempt to revenge. By revenging, it means he will try to pump his money in any outfit which can frustrate Ruto. So let's assume Uhuru believes that, for example, that Raila Odinga can frustrate Ruto's government to fail. Then he can fund the rallies. And that's why Kenya Kwanza is really worried about Azimio's rallies, who is funding them. And that's why actually Ruto is going back and trying so hard to swallow Jubilee. So there's that feeling that there's a revenge mission. And what if Ruto will start revenging against the Kenyattas? It will go to an extent of trying to attack Matiang'i, arrest Matiang'i the way they were doing, because Matiang'i was Uhuru ally. Then the Kisii will rebel the way I saw demonstrations today. The next day, they will go to someone like Karanja Kibicho, or they'll even go to Kinoti. In fact, at some point, I think they had gone for Kinoti, and the Njuri Ncheke actually raised some concerns. So that revenge mission is not good for this country. The other danger we are going to face is stability. We can't have a stable country if a former president and the current president are pulling apart. After the elections, I expected these two gentlemen to work together. Uhuru has maintained his silence, but you saw how Ruto was provoking him. So which means there is fear of Uhuru in William Ruto's camp. And what do they fear? Uhuru Kenyatta comes from one of the richest families, which means he can easily fund an outfit. Like for example, let's say if Uhuru were to decide to fund those vijana, Jeshi la Baba, he can do that for 5 years. And he won't fail it. There's that fear. And again, there's the fear that Uhuru can work with Raila. And even the fact that Uhuru and Ruto are working parallel, it's not good for the country. So the issue of stability of the country. And lastly, the third danger is people feeling victimized. Like today, William Ruto made several appointments to the boards and the rest. Anybody who was appointed by Uhuru Kenyatta has been kicked out. What does that tell you? It tells you that a lot of people are going to feel victimized. Like for example, at some point I heard that Rigathi Gachagua actually fired some chiefs because those chiefs from Madira constituency supported Uhuru Kenyatta. Those guys were just doing their jobs. They were too small. A chief is too small to defy a president. So the president was telling him, wewe hapo ukienda fanya hivi. They were receiving orders. What do you expect them to do? And again, there are other several innocent people who are appointed to various positions. And these guys are being sacked left, right, and center. So there's going to be a lot of feelings in terms of people feeling being victimized. I don't know what you think. But for me, Uhuru and Ruto, they have some unfinished business. Who is going to win? We will wait to see. Thank you guys, and may you have a good day. Bye-bye.